The day my credit card was declined at the hardware store, I realized my life had been built on quicksand. My name is Nate Walker, and I'm 35 years old. Every morning I wake at 5 a.m., drive to construction sites, and manage projects that require precision and trust. My wife, Tara Walker, the woman I believed was managing our household finances, had secretly accumulated $80,000 in debt. Designer clothes, online gambling, and luxury purchases I never saw. The bank representative's voice remained neutral as he shattered my world. "These accounts are significantly overdrawn, Mr. Walker." My stomach knotted as I discovered credit cards in my name I'd never applied for, hidden in our junk drawer beneath takeout menus. I won't scream. I won't break. I will ensure that calculated betrayal meets calculated consequence. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. But let me start from the beginning. Friday afternoons always felt like the finish line of a marathon. I wiped sweat from my forehead as I signed off on the last inspection report. The Westfield project was finally back on schedule after weeks of permit delays and supplier issues. "Heading out, boss?" Miguel asked, rolling up blueprints. "Yeah, got some work to do at home this weekend, putting in those kitchen shelves Tara has been asking about for months." I checked my watch. 4:47 p.m. "You good to lock up?" Miguel nodded, and I headed to my truck, the late afternoon sun warming my face. 5 years managing construction projects had given me calloused hands and a deep appreciation for plans that came together exactly as designed. The hardware store was on my way home, bright fluorescent lights bouncing off polished concrete floors. I grabbed a cart and methodically filled it. Oak boards for the shelving, brackets, screws, wood stain, and a gallon of milk Tara had texted me to pick up. Simple errands, simple life. Or so I thought. At checkout, the cashier, her name tag read Donna, ran my card through the machine. She frowned slightly and swiped it again. "I'm sorry, sir, your card's been declined." My neck warmed with embarrassment. "That's strange. Try it again." She did, slower this time. The machine beeped in protest. "Still not going through. Do you have another card?" I handed her my backup card, the one I kept for emergencies. Same result. "I don't understand," I muttered, more to myself than to her. "There should be plenty available." I paid cash. Thankfully, I had enough, and walked to my truck in a daze. The moment I shut the door, I called the bank. After a representative came on the line, "Thank you for calling First National. This is Kevin. How can I help you today?" "My cards were just declined, but there should be plenty of credit available. I'm not understanding what's happening." I could hear keys clicking. "Mr. Walker, I'm showing multiple accounts associated with your name that are approaching or at their limits." "Multiple accounts? I only have 2 cards with you guys." More clicking. "I'm seeing 5 active credit accounts under your Social Security number, sir. The combined balance is..." He paused. "Approximately $80,000. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. $80,000? That's impossible. "I can see recent charges from Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue, several transactions from online gaming sites, a spa resort and online gaming sites. I've never shopped at those places in my life." The milk was sweating in its plastic jug as I drove home, my mind racing through possibilities. A mistake? Identity theft? Computer error? Anything but what I was beginning to suspect. I remembered Tara showing me new clothes, bags, shoes. "Just pick these up on sale," she'd say, or "my bonus came through." Small things at first, then nicer items that I'd assumed were occasional splurges. We made good money, me at the construction company, her at the marketing firm, or at least I thought we did. The 15-minute drive home stretched into eternity. I pulled into our driveway, a neat suburban house we bought 3 years ago. Walking inside, I set the milk in the fridge and went straight to the junk drawer in the kitchen, that chaotic catch-all where Tara kept receipts, warranties, and paperwork. I dug through takeout menus and instruction manuals until I found them. 3 credit cards I'd never seen before: American Express, Visa Black, and a store card for some boutique. I flipped the MX over. There was my name, Nathaniel Walker, authorized user. My stomach dropped. I'd never applied for this card, never signed anything. Digging deeper, I found receipts. A $3,700 handbag, a weekend spa retreat costing $2,800, a receipt from an online casino showing withdrawals totaling $5,000 in a single night. The date stretched back months, years even. I spread everything across our dining room table, creating a mosaic of deceit. Each piece of paper represented a lie, a betrayal. The front door opened at 6:30. Tara walked in, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors. She carried 2 shopping bags, her blonde hair falling perfectly around her shoulders. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married 5 years ago. Then she saw the papers on the table, saw my face. Her smile faltered. "What's all this?" she asked, setting her bags down. I met her eyes, searching for any trace of the person I thought I knew. 80 grand, Tara.
Tara set her purse down at the edge of the table, careful not to disturb my display of financial forensics. Her eyes darted from receipt to receipt, recognition flickering across her face before hardening into defiance. "What exactly am I looking at here?" she asked, voice steady but thin. "You know exactly what you're looking at." I tapped a credit card statement. 3 cards I never applied for. $80,000 of debt with my name attached. Explain it. She sighed like I was a child who didn't understand basic arithmetic. "It's just credit, Nate. It's not real money until you pay it." "Not real money?" The absurdity of her statement made me laugh without humor. The bank thinks it's real. The declined cards today think it's real. "Your cards got declined?" For a moment, genuine concern crossed her face. Not for me, I realized, but for her ability to keep spending. Both of them at the hardware store. I rifled through the statements, pulling out the most egregious examples. $3,000 for a purse, $2,500 for shoes. What the hell is microdermabrasion, and why did it cost $900? She flipped her hair back. "You'd know if you ever paid attention to me. I look good because I take care of myself. And this?" I slid over the printouts from the gambling websites. $5,000 in a single night, $10,000 last month. You call that taking care of yourself? "It's entertainment," she shrugged. "Everyone needs hobbies." "A hobby is gardening or woodworking. This is an addiction." Her eyes flashed. "Don't you dare diagnose me." I reached for another document. "And this? A loan against my truck. My name is on this paperwork, but that's not my signature." She crossed her arms. "So what? Husbands cover their wives. That's what marriage is." "Marriage isn't theft." My voice matched hers now, edged with steel. "You're pathetic, Nate." She spat the words. "You make decent money, but you act broke. I deserve better than your penny pinching." I leaned forward, palms flat on the table. "I gave you everything you deserve. You gave me something that I don't." The words hung between us. She knew exactly what I meant. The betrayal of trust, the theft of my future. The air in the room seemed to still. She slammed her purse down, sending a lipstick rolling across the table. "You think you're so righteous, don't you, Mr. Responsible, Mr. Predictable? God, do you know how boring that gets? You work, you come home, you watch TV, the same pattern day after day. And you think stealing from me is exciting? Forging my signature is a thrill?" I held up the loan document. "This is fraud, Tara. It's criminal." "Oh, please," she rolled her eyes, "like you'd ever press charges against your wife." The confidence in her voice stunned me. She really believed she was untouchable, that I would roll over and accept this. "You know what your problem is?" she continued. "You've never understood how to live. Money is for spending, for enjoying life, but you hoard it like some dragon sitting on gold." I thought about the hours I'd put in at construction sites, the overtime, the promotions I'd earned through sweat and reliability, all to build a future, our future, that she'd been secretly mortgaging without my knowledge. "Get out." My voice was low. "What?" I said, "Get out. Go to the bedroom, go anywhere, just get out of my sight before I say something I'll regret." She stared at me, perhaps seeing something new in my eyes. Without another word, she grabbed her purse and stormed toward our bedroom. The door slammed with enough force to rattle the photos on the wall. Happy faces from a wedding that now seemed like a cruel joke. In the shattered silence, I methodically gathered every receipt, every statement, every document. I used my phone to photograph each one, creating a digital record that couldn't be destroyed in a fit of rage. I found a folder in my office and locked everything inside. Back in the kitchen, I sat at the table, the house quiet except for muffled sounds of Tara talking on her phone behind the bedroom door. The clock on the microwave read 9:38 p.m. Too late to call anyone, but not too late to plan. I pulled out my phone and opened the browser. My fingers hesitated for only a moment before typing divorce attorney consultation. The screen filled with results, each promising expertise and understanding. I clicked on the first one with good reviews and navigated to the appointment page. The blue glow of my phone illuminated my face in the darkened kitchen as I selected the earliest available slot. I woke up to sunlight streaming through the blinds. The other side of the bed was empty. Had been all night. I had slept on the couch, refusing to share a room with someone who treated our life together like a credit line to be maxed out. The sound of humming drifted from the kitchen. Cheerful, carefree humming like last night had never happened. I rubbed my eyes and followed the noise. Tara stood at the counter in yoga pants and a tank top, spooning sugar into her coffee. She glanced over her shoulder. "Morning," she said brightly. "Coffee's fresh." I stared at her, searching for any hint of remorse or acknowledgement. There wasn't any. Just that plastic smile she wore when she wanted something. I'd seen it 1,000 times before, but never recognized it for what it was, the mask of a manipulator. "Thanks," I managed, pouring myself a cup. We moved around each other in silence, the kind that weighs on your shoulders. She flipped through a magazine at the table while I leaned against the counter, my mind racing behind a carefully blank expression. "I'm thinking of hitting the mall later," she said, not looking up. "Want to come?" The audacity nearly made me choke on my coffee. $80,000 in debt, and she was planning another shopping trip? "Can't," I said. "Got things to do." "Suit yourself," she shrugged, turning a glossy page. I finished my coffee and headed for the shower. As the hot water ran down my back, I mentally listed what needed to be done. Freeze credit, contact the truck loan company, document everything, find a lawyer who specialized in financial deception. By the time Tara left, waving cheerfully on her way out the door with her purse swinging, I was seated at my desk with my laptop open. First call, the credit bureaus. I placed freezes with all three, ensuring no new accounts could be opened in my name. "Can you tell me if there have been any recent credit inquiries?" I asked the representative at Experian. "Let me check. Yes, Mr. Walker, there was an application for a store credit card submitted yesterday." My stomach dropped. Even after I'd confronted her, she tried to open another account. "Decline it," I said firmly. "Decline anything new." Next, I called about the truck loan. The customer service rep sounded bored until I mentioned potential fraud. "I'll need to transfer you to our fraud department," she said, her voice suddenly alert. 20 minutes later, I'd filed a formal dispute and sent copies of my actual signature for comparison. The representative assured me they'd investigate, but warned it could take weeks. The morning disappeared in a flurry of calls and emails. By 2 o'clock, I was driving downtown to meet with Heather Quinn, a divorce attorney whose website highlighted her expertise in cases involving financial misconduct. Her office was on the 10th floor of a glass building. The waiting room had comfortable chairs and framed diplomas on the wall. No flashy advertisements, no dramatic promises of destroying the opposition, just quiet competence. It felt right. "Mr. Walker," a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a tailored suit extended her hand. "I'm Heather Quinn. Come in." I followed her to a conference room and spread my documents across the table. Credit statements, loan paperwork, the photos I'd taken of receipts. Heather examined each one methodically, occasionally making notes. $80,000, she said finally. "And you had no knowledge of these accounts?" "None. Some have my name as an authorized user, but I never applied for them. And the truck loan, that's definitely not my signature." She nodded. "You've done well documenting everything. This gives us a starting point." She tapped her pen against the table. "I should warn you, though, her attorney will argue these are marital debts, that you benefited from the spending. I didn't benefit from online gambling or designer purses I never saw. And that's where we need to be thorough." She pulled out her phone. "I'd like to bring in someone who can help us, a forensic accountant." 30 minutes later, Nora Patel arrived with a laptop bag and a focused expression. She didn't waste time on pleasantries, diving straight into the statements. "We need to categorize every transaction," she explained, fingers flying over her keyboard. household necessities versus personal luxury items versus gambling, establish patterns, identify timing, cross-reference with your work schedule. I watched as she created spreadsheets highlighting transactions in different colors: red for gambling, blue for household, yellow for Tora's personal spending. Look here, Nora pointed. $3,000 at Nordstrom on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. Were you with her? No, I was on a job site in Glendale. And these casino transactions, all between midnight and 4 a.m. when you were sleeping. I'm up at 5 for work. Heather and Nora exchanged glances. This is good, Heather said. We can prove dissipation of marital assets. That's when one spouse wastes money recklessly. If we can show the court she was gambling while you were working, spending on luxury items only she used. For the first time since my card was declined, I felt a flicker of hope. They understood. They could see the pattern I'd been blind to. It was past 6 when I finally headed home. The meeting had run long, but we had a plan. Nora would continue analyzing the transactions, Heather would draft initial paperwork, I would gather more evidence and maintain separate finances going forward. I pulled into the driveway as the porch light came on automatically. Through the front window, I could see Tora pacing in the living room, phone pressed to her ear, laughing loudly. I know, right? Her voice carried as I opened the door. This weekend sounds perfect. I need some fun after dealing with... She stopped mid-sentence when she saw me. Hey, gotta go. Call you later. I set my briefcase down quietly, meeting her gaze. She hung up and turned to face me, a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. What? Planning your little escape already? The kitchen was quiet, except for the sound of my highlighter squeaking across paper. It was past midnight, but sleep wasn't an option. Not with the spreadsheets Nora had emailed me spread across the table, each page more damning than the last. Yellow for luxury purchases, blue for household expenses, red for gambling. There was a whole lot of yellow and red, and precious little blue. I traced my finger down a column of transactions from a single weekend in March. $3,000 at Gucci, $1,800 at some spa retreat, $2,200 on an online casino between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. I remembered that weekend. I'd been working overtime on a project, coming home exhausted, thinking Tora was just catching up with friends, like she'd said, all while our savings account had been draining away for purses I never saw and gambling losses I never knew about. The spreadsheets told a story so clear it made my stomach turn. This wasn't careless spending or a few splurges. This was systematic deception, calculated and hidden. I slipped each highlighted sheet into a binder I'd bought specifically for this purpose, organized by date, by category, by account, evidence that would speak for itself. From our bedroom, I could hear Tora's soft snoring, sleeping peacefully while I pieced together the financial disaster she'd created. The betrayal stung all over again with each transaction I reviewed. When I finally closed the binder, it was nearly 2 a.m. I rubbed my eyes, feeling the weight of everything I'd discovered. Tomorrow was our first court appearance, just a preliminary hearing for temporary orders, but it felt like the first real step toward freedom. I remember when I proposed to Tora, how I'd promised we'd build a life together. Never imagined I'd be building a case against her instead. What's that? Your little project? Tora's voice dripped with mockery as she entered the kitchen the next morning, dressed in my only suit. Court's at 10, I said, ignoring her question. She rolled her eyes, reaching for a mug. You're wasting your time, you know. Nobody cares about a few shopping trips. $80,000 isn't a few shopping trips, Tora. She scoffed, flipping her hair over her shoulder. It's what married people do. They share expenses. Gambling until dawn isn't an expense we shared. Her eyes flashed, but she just shrugged. Whatever, play the victim if you want. I grabbed my binder and coffee, heading for the door. I'm not playing anything. I'm just making sure the truth comes out. Good luck with that, she called after me, her laughter following me out to the driveway. The courthouse was busier than I expected. Heather met me at the entrance, professional in a navy suit, her confidence steadying my nerves. Remember, she said as we walked to the courtroom, this is just for temporary orders. Keep your answers short and direct if the judge asks you anything. The hearing itself was quick, almost anticlimactic after all the buildup. Tora's attorney argued vehemently that all spending had been for marital benefit. Heather presented the forensic accounting preliminaries, highlighting some of
the gambling losses and luxury purchases.
The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 50s, barely looked up from the documents as she issued her ruling. Temporary orders granted. Joint accounts to be frozen pending final resolution. Neither party shall incur additional debt in the other's name. Next hearing scheduled for financial discovery in 30 days. And just like that, it was over. For now. This is a good start, Heather assured me as we gathered our papers. The freeze on accounts is exactly what we wanted. I nodded, feeling cautious optimism for the first time in weeks. At least the bleeding had stopped. I was nearly to my truck when I heard Tara's voice behind me. "You must be so proud of yourself." She stood a few feet away, arms crossed, her lawyer hovering nervously behind her. "Dragging me into court, humiliating me." I slipped my binder into my truck and turned to face her. "You humiliated yourself, Tara. I'm just dealing with the aftermath." Her face flushed red. "You're pathetic, you know that? Acting like you're some victim when you've benefited from everything I bought. Like the online blackjack at 3 in the morning? Yeah, I really benefited from that." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "This isn't over, not by a long shot." "You're right about that," I said, opening my door. "We've barely started." Dinner was a silent affair. Tara had retreated to the bedroom the moment we'd arrived home, the door slamming hard enough to rattle pictures in the hallway. I ate a sandwich at the kitchen table, flipping through my binder one more time, making notes for our next meeting with Nora. The sound of the bedroom door opening made me look up. Tara stood in the doorway, changed into yoga pants and a t-shirt, her face composed into a smirk that sent a chill down my spine. "You really think a judge will save me from me?" "Dissipation of marital assets," Nora said, tapping her pen against a color-coded spreadsheet. "It's the legal term for when one spouse wastes money in a way that doesn't benefit the marriage." I leaned forward in my chair, wrapping my hands around a mug of coffee in Heather's office. The morning light streamed through Venetian blinds, casting stripes across the conference table where Nora had laid out her preliminary findings. "Gambling is one of the clearest forms," she continued, flipping to a new page, "especially when it's hidden and habitual." Heather nodded from the head of the table. "Judges hate gambling waste. It's money literally thrown away." Nora pointed to a timeline she'd constructed. "These charges, see the timestamps? 2:14 a.m., 3:47 a.m., 1:22 a.m., all online casino deposits." I stared at the times, something clicking into place. "I was asleep. I'm up at 5:30 for work." "Exactly," Nora said, "and I've cross-referenced with your work schedule. These charges happened while you were either sleeping or at job sites." She flipped to another page covered in highlighted transactions. "And these luxury purchases, designer bags, 3 spa weekends, all delivered to her friend's address, not your home." I remembered those weekends. Tara had told me she was visiting her sister in Cleveland. "The case is building nicely," Heather said, gathering the papers into a folder. "Our strategy is clear. We present Nora's analysis showing Tara wasted marital funds recklessly, without your knowledge or benefit." "And the forged truck loan?" I asked. Heather's lips curved into a small, satisfied smile. "That's our ace. Forgery crosses from bad financial behavior into potential criminal territory. We won't threaten charges outright, but having it documented strengthens our position significantly." "What's next?" I asked. "We compile everything for settlement," Heather explained. "Courts prefer when couples resolve financial issues without a trial, but we prepare as if we're going to trial anyway, which means we need everything documented meticulously," Nora added. "Every charge, every receipt, every statement." For the first time since my card was declined at the hardware store, I felt something like hope rising in my chest. There was a path forward, one that didn't end with me chained to Tara's financial disaster. "Thank you," I said, meaning it, both of you. The evening air felt cleaner somehow as I walked home from the bus stop. Spring was finally pushing winter aside, and I found myself imagining a future. One where my paycheck was my own again, where I didn't dread checking the mail for credit card statements. I almost smiled as I turned onto our street. Almost. Tara's car was in the driveway, which wasn't typical for a Tuesday evening. Usually she was out with friends until after dinner. When I opened the front door, the silence hit me first. Then came Tara's voice from the living room. "Had a nice little meeting today." Ice dripped from every word.
I set my lunchbox on the counter. Just work stuff. She laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. Right, just like your little visits to that lawyer or just catching up. She stood, crossing her arms. You think I don't know what you're doing? Trying to ruin my reputation? Make me look like some kind of criminal? I hung my jacket on the hook by the door, refusing to be pulled into another shouting match. The numbers speak louder than you do, Tara. Her face flushed red. You're pathetic, you know that. Acting like you're some victim when you've benefited from everything I bought. Like the online blackjack at 3 in the morning? Yeah, I really benefited from that.
Flushed red. You smug bastard. You think you've got it all figured out. I just shook my head and walked past her to the spare room where I'd been sleeping. For the next few days, a strange calm settled over the house. The creditors stopped calling, a result of the freeze Heather had secured. Tara stayed out later, avoiding direct confrontation. I moved through my days with a quiet focus, gathering any remaining documents Nora might need. 2 weeks passed in this uneasy truce. Heather prepared filings, Nora compiled spreadsheets, and I kept my head down at work, trying to make up for the overtime I'd missed during the initial chaos. Friday afternoon, I was measuring lumber when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Heather's name flashed on the screen. We have a problem, she said without preamble when I answered. Tara's attorney just filed a motion. I stepped away from the noise of the site. What kind of motion? They're claiming you benefited from the lifestyle spending, dinners out, home decor, trips you took together. They're trying to establish that you approved of and enjoyed the benefits of her spending habits. My stomach dropped. But that's not, I know, Heather cut in, but it's a common tactic. If they can convince the judge you knew about and benefited from even some of the spending, it weakens our dissipation claim. I leaned against a stack of plywood, the day suddenly darker. How bad is it? Heather's voice was grim. If they succeed, Nate, this could put half the debt on you. I paced the living room at 11:30 p.m., wearing a path in the carpet as I stared at the coffee table. Debt notices were scattered across it like fallen leaves, red stamped warnings from creditors I'd never even signed up with. My phone buzzed again with another text alert about my credit score dropping another 15 points. For God's sake, would you stop pacing? You're making me dizzy, Tara said, lounging on the couch with her feet propped up, scrolling through her phone. Easy for you to be calm, I muttered. You're not the one getting calls every hour. She rolled her eyes. It's just debt, Nate. Everyone has it. Not $80,000 of hidden debt, I snapped. Not debt they didn't even know about. My phone rang again. A collection agency working late. I recognized the number by now. That made the third call today about the truck loan I never signed for. I grabbed the phone and hit decline, slamming it back down on the table. You could just answer it, Tara said with a smirk. Tell them you'll pay, because eventually you will. Something in me finally snapped. No, I won't. What? She sat up straighter. I'm not carrying your weight anymore, Tara. Not one single penny of it. She leaned forward, her face hardening. The court won't see it that way. We're married. What's mine is yours, including my problems. We'll see about that, I said, grabbing my keys. Where are you going? She called after me. Somewhere you're not. I drove around for an hour just to clear my head. The dashboard clock read 1:13 a.m. when I finally pulled back into the driveway. The house was dark. Tara had gone to bed. I remembered summer nights when we'd first moved in, how we'd sit on the porch with iced tea, planning our future. The memory tasted like ash. Now, there has to be more, I told Nora the next morning. We sat in a coffee shop near her office, papers spread between us. Something concrete that proves she deliberately hid this from me. Nora tapped her pen against her notepad. Digital records could help, specifically timestamps for the gambling. If we can establish she was spending at times you couldn't possibly have been involved, like when I was at work, I finished. Exactly. Also, text messages, emails, anything showing intent to deceive. People rarely keep secrets without talking to someone about them. I thought for a moment. We share an iPad. She uses it more than I do, but her accounts are logged in. Nora looked up. That could be valuable. Messages, browsing history, app usage, all time-stamped. I'll check it tonight. When I got home, Tara was out, probably shopping with what little credit she had left. I went straight for the iPad on the coffee table and started digging. 2 hours later, I hit the jackpot. Her messages with her friend Jessica were still logged in. I scrolled back through months of exchanges, and there it was, from just 3 months ago. Got another card today, $25K limit. OMG, does Nate know? Jessica had replied. Nate will never notice. He's too boring to look. Just pays the bills I tell him to pay. It's almost too easy. My hands shook as I took screenshots. I found dozens more messages sent at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., while I was sleeping before early job site calls. Time-stamped gambling app login that perfectly aligned with when I was at work. Boasts about new purchases. Complaints about my stinginess while she secretly drained our future. I dug deeper and found the online application for the truck loan. She'd used our shared iPad to apply in my name. The form required a signature which she'd simply photographed from an old document and uploaded. I saved everything to a flash drive, then called the bank that issued the truck loan. I need verification of a signature on a loan taken out 3 months ago, I explained. Sir, we don't typically. It's for a legal matter involving identity theft, I said firmly. An hour later, I had an email confirming my signature had